Generative AI is here to stay. Should it and can it be regulated? Hello there, hope that you are doing well. This is my third consecutive video on the subject of artificial intelligence because frankly I've been speaking about it so much lately. I've been appearing at talks. I've got one tomorrow. I'm recording this on a Monday. It might go out on the Tuesday, which will probably be today. I'm giving talks in the following week. I'm writing various articles and I'm advising people on the use of AI and whether they should be doing it and what its impact should be. The rise of generative AI has been very fast. I mean, it's only been really a few months when you think about it, but it's really getting in a position where it's likely to change the way that we all do business, we all work, we consume media. Now, I described it in a recent talk as I suppose, the biggest epoch change, the biggest advance, the biggest sudden development since the search engine. And you might think, well, that doesn't sound like a particularly exciting development because you've come so much to rely on search engines. They're a part of our everyday life. You can find any information you want at your fingertips. Now imagine, thanks to programs like ChatGPT, BingAI, which is very, very similar, pretty much the same thing. We also got Google's Bard and various other programs that will, platforms that will appear as time goes on. You can generate any information you want, any work product you want, any video you want, any audio you want, just by relying on an artificial intelligence. And this is massively exciting, also massively scary, because it won't just be used for essentially writing articles, creating photos, creating music, so on and so forth. It will be used to make decisions in government. It will be used in the military, for example. It will be used to essentially name targets, spot targets, maybe to wage war. And so we get into a sort of science fiction-y area. That's something I'm very excited about because I think it's cool, but also has a lot of people scared. And that essentially raises the question, how do we stop this genie, now it's out of the bottle, from essentially, I don't know, destroying everything? How could it all go horribly wrong? And could it all go horribly wrong? We've all seen the Terminator. We've all seen 2001: A Space Odyssey. One movie you may not have seen, which I will recommend, is called Colossus, the Forbin Project. And this is about two countries who essentially don't like each other. They both develop supercomputers, super AI, essentially to make sure that one can always keep check on the other, so they were never outwitted, and essentially to try and avoid or win any future wars. Now, the two countries turn them on at the same time. What happens is the computers then speak to each other and go, problem is not necessarily the other computer, but it's humanity, and they start essentially enslaving humanity to make sure that there is no war, achieving the goal that they were intended to do, but doing it by the means that perhaps the individuals did not expect. I recommend it. I'll make sure there's a picture of it so you can see what the cover is, and I'm sure it's available on streaming services somewhere, but it is a very, very interesting film. But it's kind of relevant right now. There was a brilliant article I saw a couple of weeks ago about artificial general intelligence. This is essentially where AI is not responding to prompts that you're giving to it. You're not asking it to generate something, but it works by itself. This is things like HAL in 2001: A Space Odyssey or Skynet, and whether we should have a moratorium on the development of AI until we decide on some rules to regulate it. Now, remember, technology giants have got together and said, actually, why don't we stop? Why don't we have at least 6 months where we decide whether it's going to lead? Because the advancements in the use of generative AI, such as ChatGPT, are moving so quickly. And, you know, that makes sense, but not everyone is in favour of that. So some will stop and some will carry on. And then your AI arms race continues with someone getting the upper hand. So I want to ask the question, and I'm very interested in your view on this. I'll tell you what my view is, but I'm interested in your view, is first off, should we be regulating the use of AI? And secondly, can we regulate the use of AI? Now, the should we is quite an interesting one because you can think of how AI can go wrong. We're already seeing this now. So AI will generate something. You don't necessarily know where it's getting its information wrong. It may be disseminating false information. So that is a problem. When you create something with AI, it may be infringing on the copyright of someone else's intellectual property. It's a real problem in terms of that. It may then be infringing on someone's privacy. It may be committing an offence. If you were using AI for something like a deep fake to recreate someone's face or someone's voice and show them doing something stupid, you'd be infringing on their personal rights, their personal liberties. How far can this go? How far can you stop things happening? At the moment, we don't really have any regulation in this space. And at the moment, if someone uses an AI to commit any offence, plagiarism, even cybersecurity offences, you have to go after the individual. You can't go and sue the AI. The AI is probably not going to have any money. And frankly, we'll probably have more legal resources than you, thinking how smart it may actually be. Now, we've seen AI regulation in the past. We've seen it in the EU, and I think EU is probably the stars. I'm still very annoyed about Brexit in terms of regulating new technology, but it's so much in its infancy in terms of its regulation compared to the situation we're in now. AI, in a very, very small nutshell, regulates to an extent decision making without a human interaction. So if you use AI to make a decision, or use AI to essentially profile someone, like you producing a social credit system like the one we see in mainland China, then that would be regulated by law, and you would not be allowed to do it without certain checks being placed, making sure that there's a human making the ultimate decision. And that's great. And a human making the ultimate decision seems to be the way forward to avoid anything going wrong. But that only deals with a certain number of uses. If you are working as a copywriter, a lawyer, anyone who generates any sort of information, should it be regulated on how much you can use AI? Should you have limits because someone's paying you to do something, but then you're just using an AI to use it? Or will we see AIs that are specifically tailored to specific industries? So it will be assumed that we're using it. And if you don't use it and someone else is using it and not saying that they're using it, will they have an unfair advantage to you and win all the work anyway, and you'll go out of business? And it's quite difficult. The other issue we've got, and this is one again that I struggle with, is that the way that the world works now, and has forever really, is that all of the various jurisdictions in the world are split into their own legal systems with all of their own regulations. So whereas, for example, the EU has regulation of automated decision making using AI, the US, the regulation is far way behind and split into different states. There's some great stories from years ago now where AI has been used in automated decision making for the sentencing of prisoners, and it carries the biases of the people who created the AI. Therefore, black prisoners automatically get longer sentences than white prisoners because of the bias of who created it. So it's a very different situation. But if different jurisdictions take a different approach, for example, at the moment mainland China has taken a view that they don't want anyone to work on or develop something that's the equivalent of ChatGPT, whilst at the same time I'm pretty sure that they're building it behind the scenes. But it means that then people will advance at a different rate. It's a bit like think of it as an artificial intelligence-led industrial revolution. So first off, can it be regulated? Going back to my original question, you would hope that there would be some systems in place that would make sure that nobody could be at a disadvantage because of the use of AI. But then you've got to try and phrase what that disadvantage would be. If someone loses their job because of AI, is that a disadvantage? Would the law change to say that someone can't be made redundant because they've hired an AI to do it? I mean, think of all the people who lost their jobs when we had increased automation over the course of the Industrial Revolution. That just wouldn't work. Unless someone suffers a serious disadvantage, something that is essentially life-threatening or puts them at a significant risk, I don't see how you could legislate against it. And how would you control it? And then if you're controlling it in one jurisdiction, you're not controlling another. How would you decide if, when AI is truly global in its scope and it can be used anywhere in the world, and there'll be different AI platforms, but in every position you can use it differently, you're in a position like cryptocurrency, where we have different regulation in jurisdictions, and some places become cryptocurrency havens, other ones ban it outright. I'll pick on China again as an example, but some jurisdictions made a lot of money becoming centres for crypto. Will you see that then AI is just used in those jurisdictions and they gain an advantage because people will want to use it? I don't know. My immediate thought is that where the use of AI puts someone at risk of serious harm, where you put control of AI into something that could cause some sort of catastrophe, going back to my example of the Colossus movie, then yes, we need some regulation in place. But again, we don't know whether it will be in every jurisdiction. So my conclusion is that actually AI, until we get to a point that it's too late, might actually be immune of regulation. It takes so long for people to actually come up with a way to regulate anything, the use of anything. It's very unusual in most developed jurisdictions that they can pass laws quick enough to actually deal with what's happening on the ground at the moment. I'll give you an example of how bad Hong Kong's privacy law still is. We're apparently getting some amendments this year that might bring it in line with other jurisdictions. But think if we were doing that with something like generative AI, by the time we get to a point that we're trying to protect somebody and how AI is used, that horse will that virtual horse will well and truly have bolted. So I don't think we can. I don't think we can effectively regulate it until it's too late. But I also don't think we should have a moratorium on the use of AI. What I do think is that we need more people thinking about it in governments. We need lawyers spending more time working on how, going away from, wow, brilliant, I can draft my contract really quickly now, to thinking, well, should we be using this at all? Should there be rules where we have to declare that AI has been used? So if you're made redundant from your job, you should state we used an artificial intelligence program to come to this decision. And that would be great, because then you would have an argument that maybe the decision was made unfairly using the EU model. But I'm curious as to what it looks like. I think over the course, and things are moving so quickly, remember we've only really had generative AI in the mainstream now for a few months. I think we'll come to a position where the law has to change very quickly. We see regulation being generated very quickly, and we see the establishment of think tanks to think, what is the impact going to be on our society? And I think it's absolutely fascinating, but also a little bit scary at the same time. So I'm interested in what you think. I'm speaking a lot on AI at the moment. If you follow me on LinkedIn, please do. My name is Paul Haswell. You can probably tell that from the YouTube video, or if you might be watching this on LinkedIn. I'm speaking on it seemingly almost on a weekly basis at the moment. Please do join in, because we have conversations about how it works. And a lot of my new ideas come from the insights that other people have, and the most fascinating insights I think I get are people who are very new to AI, and some are very enthusiastic and some are scary. And I think that mixture of fear and excitement is something that is incredibly important, because the genie is out of the bottle, and we have to think how we make the genie work for us rather than it being used for nefarious purposes. And of course I've got other videos on that. Anyway, that's it for the moment. A very short video, given that I'm speaking so much and people might be sick of the sound of my voice. But yeah, do let me know. My ultimate conclusion is, yes, it probably should be regulated. We do need some regulation in AI, but it's going to take a absolutely monumental task to make that happen. And I'm quite hopeful that somehow I can be a part of it to make sure that AI is not hindered, but at the same time it's not used for bad. But we'll see. Enjoy using your ChatGPT and whatever else you may be using at the moment. I finally got accepted to the BingAI access. It took ages to get BingAI chat to actually work, and I've had to use all sorts of various things, but I'm playing with that. And it is undoubtedly exceptionally cool, and it is the future. So on that positive note, have a good one. I'll be back very, very soon. Take care.